All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'm sure we'll have a couple of stragglers coming in here, but it's hit 2 o'clock, so let's do our thing. So we will have class this Friday. We're going to be covering the other half of Chapter 3. We're going to cover demand today, which is the first half of Chapter 3, and then on Friday we will be covering supply, which will leave you fully prepared to take the Chapter 3 quiz, which will be due on Monday. Important bit of notes that I did not put in here that I definitely should is we have no class next week, right? I am in Nashville for my NBDC job. So I am the business consultant, the center director and lead business consultant for the Nebraska Business Development Center out here in Chadron. And so there's an American Small Business Development conference that's happening in Nashville that all of the center directors are going to. So I will be going to there as well for some, consulting education and networking and stuff like that. So there's going to be no classes next week, which is the week of 9/4 through 9/8. There will be videos that are uploaded, so just keep tuned to your announcements, which go to your email, so I guess keep tuned to your email, and they will be uploaded and linked in the announcements and also in the modules page. Any questions just on our upkeep kind of stuff? Okay, cool. Then let's go ahead and jump right in. So we talked about, what economics is, the difference between macro and micro. We learned an economic model, right? The circular flow diagram about how households and businesses, provide various things to each other, and it goes round and round and round. We learned about a budget line, right? And about a production possibility frontier, and how those two things show the constraints and the opportunity costs of either purchasing something or producing something as a nation writ large. Those two models, while interesting, are not going to be models that we are using for the rest of the class. The model we are going to be using for the rest of the class is the supply and demand model. So I say this and make such a big stink about it because I want to make sure that we are all on the same page. So if there's any kind of confusion, feel free to speak up during class. Feel free to post a comment. Not that anybody watches these videos. I don't know why I still do them. Or email me, right? Most of you will probably just email me as you are reading the text or maybe doing the assignment, and you come across something that, maybe you thought you understood, but you didn't understand it as well as you thought. So always email me. I can help provide some just alternate ways of approaching these topics, right? So that being said, let's jump in. Demand. Chapter 3, Section 1. So the book does this thing where, it kind of goes through all these definitions, and that's just going to cramp our hands. And at the end of the day, what is economics but a diagrammatic representation of reality? Good old Stanley Jevons, 200 years ago. And so we talked a little bit about how in economics, we're always going to be in the first Cartesian coordinate plane, right? You guys remember math class and the XY axis and stuff like that? We're only going to be here because what is this? This is all the positive numbers, right? This is positive going this way, and this is positive this way. In economics, we're not dealing with negatives, right? These are negatives. If we were in this quadrant, everything would be negative values. So for the most part, we can, not for the most part, entirely, we can just forget about the rest of these Cartesian coordinate planes. We only are dealing with the first one, all right? So knowing that, we're going to draw an L. We're going to draw some arrows because we know that it goes off into infinity. And we're going to label these things. And the way that we label these graphs, there's a nice mnemonic that you can use, right? It's according to the alphabet. So you can say the alphabet to yourself, sing it to yourself, LMNOPQRS, right? Hopefully better than I just did just now. The P comes before the Q, right? Similarly, our price axis sits to the left of our quantity axis, at least where we label them, right? So when we're labeling them, P comes before Q. Very easy to get this confused, very easy to get this backwards, right? Why is it easy to get this backwards? And I hesitate to even tell you this because I don't want to confuse you all, but for completeness, I'm going to tell you. So why would this be backwards? We are used to, right, when we have, if we had a graph, we would have an x on this axis, and we would have an f of x on this axis, right? That make sense, everyone? We all seen that before? So the x is the independent variable, right? The x is determining the f of x, okay? So here's where it gets a little tricky in economics. When we go to the store, do we go to the store and decide that, oh, I'm going to buy this thing because I see that it hasn't been restocked and a bunch of people bought it? No. We make our decisions based on price, right? So it's backwards. Economic models are backwards. The price is the independent variable. And the quantity is the dependent variable. Thus why we needed the mnemonic to remind ourselves that the P always comes before the Q. The P is to the left of the Q. The P is on what is traditionally the y-axis. The Q is on the x-axis. Any questions on that? We know it's backwards. It's been that way for decades and decades and decades, and it's never going to change. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff.